So I'm Troy Erickson. I'm the Veteran Service Officer for Clear Creek County. And so that's a wide variety of tasks in this job, but my number one responsibility is to make sure that veterans from Clear Creek County, so we have approximately 1,600 veterans here in Clear Creek County. And so my main purpose is to make sure to meet with those folks, evaluate their military record, and determine what benefits they may be entitled to, whether those are benefits through the VA, benefits through the state, benefits through the county. And everyone is different. And so it does not matter when you served. Anyone who completed their tour of service is considered a veteran. And again, different levels of service, you get different benefits. So someone who retires after 20 years would get a whole lot more benefits than someone who just did one tour of service. Also evaluating their character of discharge. So a lot of soldiers go in 18, 19, 20, they make some foolish decisions. They may be thrown out of the military, but depending on the reasons they're thrown out, we may have an opportunity to go back and ask for that discharge to be upgraded. Because anyone who has a dishonorable discharge is not entitled to any benefits and actually is not a veteran. However, a couple of examples of that would be if a service member abuses drugs or alcohol, and he or she is treating something that happened to them while they're in the service. They were not given an opportunity for counseling and an opportunity to get help, and the commander just kicks them out. We can go back and petition the military and say, we should have done better. You should have done better to help that person. The other big thing that gets turned over is someone who is discharged under the don't ask, don't tell policies for being homosexual. And so because those policies have changed, we can go back and get that discharge overturned. Another thing to consider is someone may have served 12 years and 11 years and 11 months was honorable service. And then those last 30 days, that person was a knucklehead and got kicked out. We can go back and show the VA that for 11 years and 11 months, they were a good service member and should be entitled to some benefits. So we always want to make sure to meet with those people individually, find out and help them. The VA is a huge agency. It's the second largest agency in the U.S. government, and it is not an easy place to navigate. So the state of Colorado, the statute requires every county has a certified VSO, veteran service officer. And so a majority of my salary is reimbursed by the Colorado Division of Veterans Affairs. So it saves the county money and allows me to do my job. So I don't work for the VA. I work for Clear Creek County, and I'm appointed by the county commissioners every 2 years. So I want to make sure to do a good job and help those folks out. Another thing that we do, we work with Sheriff Rick Albers and Judge Jones. So if a veteran is arrested or comes before the judge and they're not on my radar, they'll let me know so that we can sit down with that veteran and determine why they are there. It's not a get out of jail free card. But if there are things that the VA can provide in treatment or therapy to help that service member move beyond back into being a productive member of society, we want to do that. We want to make sure that we make our service members and their families aware of mental health resources. PTSD is a real thing. It's been a real thing for a long time, but we want to make sure that that we don't we educate those folks on how to access those mental health services. Getting service members signed up for their health care. A lot of service members are not signed up for VA health care. However, mental health is one of the things that every veteran can get regardless of whether they're enrolled in that system or not. You heard that term 22 a day that commit suicide. The number is actually closer to 20 veterans a day commit suicide, and then on average 2 active duty military commit suicide every day. So it is a huge push for us to get the word out about the Veterans Crisis Line. We are currently working with our bars and taverns in the county. The Veterans Crisis Line has showed that starting on the East Coast at 2 a.m., moving west is the busiest time for the Veterans Crisis Line. And it is estimated that because we've started supplying beer posters to bars and taverns, that a veteran can take that off the bar, nobody really notices it, he or she can go home and call that Veterans Crisis Line, text that crisis line, And now one of the last questions that they'll ask that service member or that veteran is if they want to be contacted by a mental health professional from their area. The VA will call them the next morning, set up an appointment, or at least try to talk with them, help them navigate that system. A lot of that stuff is done in the office, especially when you're dealing with a mental health claim. That's a little private, and so maybe not so much with this group, but the other things that I think this group can help us with is helping me spread the word. A lot of people don't know that there's a veteran service officer right here in the county. They generally work out of the courthouse. During this COVID time, I've been working out of the Resource Center in Idaho Springs, just because I can use the front porch of the Elks during the summer or warmer days. And it's nice just to meet people face to face. A lot of veterans do not like doing the telehealth stuff. So helping spread the word about the veteran service officer's position and our responsibilities. We're also always looking for drivers. So a few years ago, the VA gave us a van. And so it's a silver van. It's normally parked at the Elks Lodge right now. And we're looking for people to help get our veterans down to their appointments. And so it's a relatively easy process. We get you signed up as a, excuse me, a badged volunteer with the VA, and then we get you signed up as a driver. The VA pays all of our expenses for that van, so it does not cost us anything. But more and more, we have older veterans that do not like to drive. We generally take a lot of our appointments just to the Golden Clinic. That's our closest VA clinic. And then occasionally we do have to take them out to the new hospital in Aurora. But that's something that we're always looking for folks to help us out with. And we really try to do, really try to do door-to-door service. And so when you're in your 70s and 80s and you don't necessarily want to, especially during COVID time as well, you don't want to get in a van with a bunch of people. So we really work hard to do a door-to-door service for that person, that veteran, making sure, and we want to make sure they get to their healthcare appointments because they need to do that. And sometimes they get intimidated with not being able to drive or not wanting to deal with the traffic. Another thing is helping us identify our women veterans out there. The VA estimates that we have 64 women veterans in the county. To date, I've only been able to identify 15 of them. I would also say that if you know of a woman veteran who is a victim of military sexual assault or PTSD, and they don't want to meet with me, because that's understandable. My office is in the basement of the courthouse, and I'm a man. So that is not a very good recipe to get women to trust me or come into that office. And so we do have a couple women veterans, young women veterans, who are willing to meet with those women veterans on my behalf. And I will talk them through what paperwork we need to get done and those kind of things. And they can submit that. I don't even have to read it. These ladies, I know how to submit that to the VA so that I, again, doing everything we can to protect her privacy. Military sexual assault, unfortunately, is a real thing. I have been fortunate to help 3 women in our county process those claims and get them into mental health. And they're better for it. They're better off for it. But it took them an amazing amount of courage to come forward. I'll tell you, I've also assisted 2 young men who just got out of the military who were victims of military sexual assault as well. And that took a lot of courage for that to come out in one of our several meetings as we were processing out their military service. And fortunately, they were in a place they felt comfortable with me and be able to share with me those events and us doing that paperwork and making sure that we get that addressed. And so helping me spread that word. And, you know, and if they're not comfortable with me, is maybe they're my friend or something, we can refer them to another VSO, either in an adjacent county or down to the state office, whatever it takes to get them those services, we want to do that. Clear Creek has an aging population. We also do not have a funeral home anymore. So one of the things that we're doing from the veteran side is that we're pre-planning, we're sitting down with veterans and their families and talking about those end-of-life choices, whether that's a living will, all the way up to what they want to see for the military honors. We also provide military honors up here. If someone wants to be interred up here at one of our cemeteries in Clear Creek County, we'll bring the honor guard up here. We'll make sure that those honors are done correctly and with that family. And then we'll stay in touch with that family afterwards, making sure the spouse, and if there are children in the home, that they receive the benefits that they're entitled to. and meeting with them ahead of time as well to let them know what's going on. A lot of our older veterans too, they make just a little bit on Social Security. We can also help evaluate whether or not they're entitled to a veteran's pension to help get them back up where they need to be. If you know of homebound veterans, in the past, we've worked with Loaves and Fishes where they'll give us the proxy and we can send a driver or volunteer over to pick up their food box and deliver it to their home. That's also been successful because we want to make sure that those folks are getting their needs met. Throughout the year, so for example, today, March 29th is National Vietnam War Veterans Day. It's an opportunity for us to recognize the sacrifice made by Vietnam veterans. A lot of those service members were drafted and they came home to a very unaccepting America. And now those folks are in their 70s and 80s, and they've seen the turn. They've seen how the Gulf War and Desert Storm veterans have been treated with tremendous respect, and sometimes that makes it a little bit difficult. And so we're always looking to get those words out. Yesterday, the Veterans Coalition, we did a burger and brat, a free burger and brat at the Elks Lodge for our Vietnam veterans and any other veterans that showed up. Throughout the year, we try to raise awareness about that. We have in May, we'll have Armed Forces Day. That's another thing that we're trying to do is identify families in Clear Creek County who have children that are serving right now. We've identified within Clear Creek County, I think we're up to 17 or 18 families that have a loved one that's currently in service to our country. And in May, we'll ask the Board of County Commissioners to sign a proclamation identifying those, thanking them for their service, but also we want to be a resource for the family. So if there's a concern or a question, a couple of years ago, we had a young lady enlist in the Navy, and about the time she got to boot camp, a hurricane was coming in. Her mom was very nervous. She called us. We called the unit commander down there, gave us some details that we could share with mom that they had been moved to a different set of barracks that were going to be out of the way of the hurricane, and that the daughter was going to be safe, and at the appropriate time they'd be able to call home. So wanting to do that, wanting to make sure that the families recognize that we're here. It's a small community, and however we can help support those folks serving, we want to do that. Memorial Day is coming up at the end of May. And we also want to remember the difference between Memorial Day, Armed Forces Day, and Veterans Day, just so everybody knows. Memorial Day honors all of those service members that were killed in action. Armed Forces Day recognizes all those service members that are currently serving, and then Veterans Day are for those who have served and left the military. So on Memorial Day, we're always looking for volunteers who want to would like to go out and help us put flags throughout the cemeteries in Clear Creek County. It's a beautiful time of year. It's nice to get out and visit with some of those things and just come together as a community. And then again, throughout the rest of the year, we'll do different things. 9/11 is another. I know that Uchi's been on our 9/11 Memorial Stair Climb over in Blackhawk. It was virtual in 2020. We're hoping to be back in person in 2021. It is a tremendous community effort to come out and remember all of those victims from 9/11. And so anyone that wants to join us, please let Uchi know. We'll put together a Clear Creek County team again. And then the nice thing is after that, when we do our ceremony, we recognize 105 Colorado residents who have been killed in battle since 9/11. It's a tremendous number, a tremendous sacrifice of life to keep us free. And so we want to continue to do that. The third Friday in September is National Prisoner of War Missing in Action Recognition Day. We have about 9 families here in Clear Creek County whose father was either a prisoner of war, or in one case, my supervisor, Cindy Dick, and her dad was shot down the day after his 24th birthday. Has never been recovered. And so we make it a point on that day to recognize those family members, the sacrifice of their parents or their uncles, and raise awareness within our community. And so anyone who knows of someone, please let us know so that we can honor that. Because I can tell you for Cindy, that is an open hole in her heart that will, it'll never be filled. He crashed in the ocean with 8 other men, and so most likely they will never recover that plane. But she, as she shared with me one day, there's no grave to go visit. Her mom passed away a year ago, knowing that she would never see Bobby again. those are some pretty powerful things. And so we want to keep that first and foremost in our mind. In November is Veterans Day. Again, looking for anyone that wants to help us recognize our veterans and tell them thank you. And then finally, the other big event that we do that we really love to get the community involved is called Wreaths Across America. And that mirrors the event that happens at Arlington National Cemetery. And that's where we place a holiday wreath on every grave of veterans here in Clear Creek County. And their motto is respect, honor, and teach. And so we want to respect the service of that service member. We want to honor their memory by laying that wreath, and then we want to teach everybody else what freedom is all about. The other thing that we do, the Veterans Coalition took on about 4 years ago, is we then go down to Fort Logan and we make sure that every family who has a loved one buried at Fort Logan from Clear Creek County also gets one of those wreaths. Fort Logan right now only lays about 10% of the graves down there get a wreath on the holidays. And so we want to make sure that we recognize our Clear Creek County families. And so we send a team down there to do that as well. And just talking about the Clear Creek County Veterans Coalition, we were formed back in 2012. And at that time, the Veteran Service Officer's position was 4 hours a week. And we did not believe that 4 hours a week was enough to service the needs of the veterans in this county. And so collectively, the American Legion and the VFW, we sat down and we had a conversation. I was the commander of the American Legion at the time and said, you know, we're two great organizations, chartered by Congress. We do a lot of great things, but we're doing a lot of the same things. And then we started talking to the Lions Club and the Elks Lodge and said, what do you folks do? And we found out that they each do this they do something for veterans. And so we realized that in order to supplement the Veterans Service Officer at the time in their 4 hours, to say, well, listen, you know, if you need a pair of eyeglasses, let's go to the Lions Club. If you need some gas cards at that time, go see the Elks Lodge. How do we unite all of these people? And it was truly a beautiful effort to see how many nonprofits that just stepped up and said, well, we can't do it all, but this is our little specialty. And that's how the Veterans Coalition came about. And that was truly, I think, our biggest success when we operated the food and supply distribution out of the Elks Lodge for 99 days. Was every group adopted a community or adopted a section. So whether it was St. Mary's or Brook Forest or Silver Plume, we made sure that we got supplies and food to the people that needed to do that. We continue to do that today. And matter of fact, starting on Wednesday, we're going to start doing our food drop-offs at Loaves and Fishes. And so, Uchi, thank you, because you were instrumental in getting April and I connected, and that's finally come to fruition. And so we know that, well, hopefully we're going in the right direction. So we hope we don't go back to yellow, orange, or red. But if we do, we're certainly going to be looking for volunteers to help us get food out to those folks who need it. We don't ask for names or anything like that, but the other thing I will also put out, the Veterans Coalition have a contract with Walmart in Evergreen. And so once a month, we pick up a truckload of donations and then we distribute that throughout our network. And so if there are any groups as part of this Connectors program, if you know of a family that's struggling with something specific, whether it be a set of pots and pans, a heater, clothing, please let us know. Generally what we do, we go through that stuff, anything that's clothing, young person's clothing, we give that over to Lauren Courtney at Carlson. Any pet supply items, we generally give to Friends of Charlie's Place or Up to Charlie's Place. And then from there, we just kind of go through our list and see who needs what items. And then those things that we aren't able to donate, then that aren't in need, because we don't have any storage space, we then donate that to either Ermel's thrift store over in Blackhawk or the Queen's Wardrobe thrift store in Idaho Springs. So we can help support those nonprofits as well. That's another thing that we do. Do you have any questions for me? It's kind of a little bit of a summary of what I do as a county employee and then as the board chair for our Veterans Coalition.
Awesome. Thank you, Troy. That was a very thorough information. Thanks. I was wondering, you just mentioned that you guys get donation from Walmart. do residents need to be veterans to be able to get any of those donations, or no? It can be anyone.
They're for anybody. And what it was, Walmart has been a huge supporter of veterans for as long as I've been in this position. And about 2 years ago, Walmart changed their policy. What they were doing 2 years ago was if somebody brought something back, or it was the last item on the shelf after seasonal, like Halloween, Christmas, stuff like that, or the box was damaged when it came in, they were just throwing it away. And so they put out an offer of a program called Good 360. And we put our proposal in, and we were selected to be their partner. And so, and we specifically identified that it would not be strictly for veterans, but because we were a veterans coalition, we could identify a wider need in our community. And so that's really helped us distribute those things. And so veteran status is not needed. We don't even need to know who it is. In fact, we'd rather not know who it is because we'd rather the word get back, however, that somebody needs help. We're looking for a specific item, and then we would just give it to our coalition partner, and then they would make sure it gets distributed to that person.
Awesome. I have another question too. If anybody wanted to get involved in the coalition, how would they go about with that? Would they volunteer? Do you guys have memberships, or how does that work?
So generally, you can email me at clearcreekveterans@gmail.com. That will be the easy one. Or you can email me my county email, which is t.erickson@clearcreekcounty.us. We meet the first Thursday of every month at 4 o'clock. This coming Thursday will be our April meeting, and we'll be meeting at the Idaho Springs Masonic Lodge, which is directly across the street from City Hall in Idaho Springs. We'll be meeting there at 4 o'clock. I realize that's short notice. And generally that meeting, so every nonprofit that joins our coalition has a board member. We create a board seat on there. And then that board on that Thursday. So a couple things that we'll do, we'll review how the event went yesterday, any feedback, lessons learned, how can we do better next year. We'll review, for example, I think we're down to our last $900 in our Operation Give Hope, which was the fundraising effort to help the displaced residents from the lodge. And so it sounds like the Department of Human Services, everyone is good to go. So tomorrow we're going to determine how do we redistribute or how do we finish off with that $900 so that we can close that mission down. And come up with any other ideas that we want to, other projects will come on. So gearing up for Armed Forces Day, so helping identify those folks. And that's also the opportunity, not that you would need to come to the meeting, but if you want to volunteer at a certain activity or volunteer to be a driver for us, you can just email and I will send that. So for example, for the drivers, I would send you a VA application. The process is that you would fill out the application, you return it to me. I would be the sponsor to the VA. They would then schedule for a time for you to come down and get fingerprints, and then you would get an ID badge. Once that's done, then we would let the motor pool know that we want you to become a driver. And for that, you'd have to go back to the main VA hospital. You'd be getting a driver's physical. And then you'd also do 3 driving courses with me. They're online, relatively simple. And then after that, you get an authorized driver for us. And then what I do in that particular case is when we get a request for transportation, I send out a message to our drivers and who's available to do this. It's going to be a 20-minute appointment in Golden. The veteran has to report at this time. In general, if it's a 20-minute appointment, just can you hang out a little bit. If it's something significantly longer, 4 or 5 hours, then we wouldn't expect that volunteer to stay unless they wanted to. But then we would just figure out who can go back down and pick those people up. But certainly, I'd also look us up on Facebook. We have our Clear Creek County Veterans Coalition Facebook page. We do put a lot of information out on there about coming events. We are going to get better. I will say, if anyone on here is good at PR, that's probably my worst. I'm great at putting up after we do the event, but anyone that wants to help us do that, I would identify that as a big need for us. We have some members who aren't into social media, or for that matter, anything else, Instagram, those kind of things. I only do Facebook, so we're always looking for help in that arena to help us get the word out, and raising that kind of awareness. So yeah, certainly, in that coalition meeting is open to anybody, regardless of whether you're a veteran or on the coalition. We operate under the sunshine law, so we have nothing to hide. We're all volunteers. So there's really no reason to go into executive session for things like that. But and so anyone's welcome to join us. So this Thursday will be at the Masonic Lodge. We try to rotate so that every group can show off what they do. So the First Baptist Church was a couple months ago because they wanted to show off their church and talk about some of their Easter programs and things like that. Last month was the Elks Lodge. And we'll see tomorrow or this week who volunteers to host our next meeting.